You know, I never have met a room I didn't like or one that I couldn't enhance. And it's what I love to do. And I do it very naturally, and I do it with a lot of tools. Where did this all start? Where did this come from? Well, as a child, I remember listening to the radio, if you're old enough to remember radio, and the radio dramas, and they played in my mind, and I had a very strong imagination. So I built the biggest castles. I had the most marvelous knights and the greatest kings, the most luscious princesses. They were always better than anything that could happen in reality. Well, that continued on and stayed a love of mine as I developed a love of theater. And in theater, I started to realize you could do things with people's energy and with their mind, with their feelings, by how you lit the stage, what set you put on the stage, what happened on the stage, so that it all came together and it changed the state of me who was watching this marvelous piece. So that all came to play when I realized that I would go places and be in spaces that it didn't feel right. They made me vaguely uncomfortable. And I wasn't sure why. And yet, in my own spaces, I always changed them. And I always got people saying, you know, Sugeet, this is a wonderful space. I feel so welcome here. And I just did that kind of very naturally or instinctually. But I needed more than that. I needed more than that. If I was going to help people, I had to have a set of tools that I could always depend on that would allow me to create the kind of result that was asked for. So I was led to Feng Shui, this 4,000-year-old Chinese art and science. And as I took up the study and went to school to become a Feng Shui consultant, at first I thought, ooh, this is very out there and esoteric, and I'm not. But what happened was I would call home from where I was in California, and I would pick up messages, and people would say, when you get back, would you call me? I need some help. So something was working, something that was a little bit beyond where I was, or that my cynicism was allowing me to go. And then I learned that what I was being given was a very fine tool set. It was both an art and it was a science. And I could use it to do the transformations that I wanted to help people with. I continued to study Feng Shui until I had received the highest degree of certification possible with the International Feng Shui Guild. And that was all fine, but my real goal was to be able to help people change their physical space so that their behavior and their life would change in a positive direction. That got teased out more so when I look back and realized that the years I spent in the art business as an art consultant meant I had to be able to take you looking at a piece of art and explain what it was about that art that really grabbed you, that made you think, well, why should I spend $5,000 or $50,000 on this piece of canvas that's just going to sit on my wall? You see, most people, they have no trouble if they're buying a car or new furniture or whatever. But no matter how much physical stuff we buy, there tends to be something missing. And art was the key to filling that hole, because art has something in it that feeds the soul, that's not only pleasant to look with, but actually changes your state. So, how do I pull that back? And now how do I address a space and talk to you as a person who is asking for a change, realizing that in a way that you can, number one, understand, because it is practical, it's both an art and a science, it's both, but that also produces the very result that you want. What's even more interesting and what really stokes gets my juices going is that when we make that change, it's like dropping a rock in a pond. Okay? So that change is when the rock drops. But what happens is slowly, slowly, circles go out and they touch the entire edge of the pond, which translates into every part of your life will be affected. How? I don't know. What's been delightful is to see the many ways that it has. A case in point. I was working with an interior decorator who was struggling with her business. She operated out of her home. She had a workroom in her home where she did her business, did her design, did her fabrication and all. And she was struggling. I did an analysis of her home and her office and made some very specific requests that she change. She did, and all of a sudden her business started to pick up. Not only that, but she found a new joy in doing her business, which meant she was offering better service to her clients. Nothing wrong with that. In another case, a craniosacral practitioner operated in her home, took patients, but was struggling financially. She didn't have the money for my fee, so she asked me to only do one room. She was a friend. I said, fine, I'll do it. I went into that room and I got quiet and I just waited until I knew what needed to happen. And then I told her. That room happened to contain the wealth corner of the energy map that I use from Feng Shui. But I told her, when we change this, it's going to change your wealth in multi-dimensions. It's not just more money. It's more wealth in everything in your life. About 4 months later, she nearly tackled me at a social gathering we were at. And she told me she couldn't believe it because not only was she now driving a car that her company had bought for her, so because she had become so successful, but she met the love of her life. She's now married to him. She's extremely happy. She really now has wealth in all dimensions. Did I set out to create that? No. But when we change one thing, it changes everything. And that's what people at first don't understand. And they don't get it until they get it. Okay, so the skill I have as a Feng Shui practitioner, my intuitive abilities, needs a final tweak, fix, whatever. And that is the energy of a space and how you change it. How do I know when the energy isn't right? Okay? So, from my time in Hawaii, I had learned about a master dowser who at the time lived in Lebanon, Oregon. And through engaging his services for a couple of things, a space I was living in, and later my mother's condominium in Florida, which I had to get rid of after she passed, I saw that the ability to douse a space was very, very powerful. And I learned enough to do it so that I can douse a space, but all I ask for is the energy here. Is there any energy here that's not in your highest good? I don't care what it is. I don't care how it is. I don't need the details. All I need to know is that this energy doesn't serve you. From Feng Shui, then I have the tools to fix that, to cure it, to heal it, if you will, because I deal from a positive place, not from a get that out of my life place. It just needs to be very comfortable, and it needs to move on to whatever its next stage of healing is. The result of that is maybe you don't need to do a lot. Maybe you just need to clean up the space. This can be as much as something wrong hanging on to you, which is kind of strange. But it turned into a situation where I was dowsing a house, and every time I walked past my client, the dowsing rods would say, something's wrong here. And I checked it, I rechecked it, and I checked it a third time, because I don't want it to be something that I'm putting out. I want it to be something that's being picked up. I told my client we needed to clear the left side of her body, and we did. We energetically cleaned that up. She told me 3 weeks later that she had been to an allopath, she had been to a chiropractor, she had been to an acupuncturist, she had been to a massage therapist, and nobody could get rid of the pains on her left side. But after we cleared it, no more pain. I had no idea that this had happened. In another case, there was a spirit of a Native American who actually, I don't like the term haunting, but was dwelling in a new construction, trying to wake the owners up to the fact that land is not really owned by you white people, if you will, but you steward it. And he wanted them to appreciate the land and to steward it, to take care of it. And once they got that, once they understood that, all disturbance stopped. So it changed everything for them too. So for a minute, just think about what I've been able to do, and you start to see why I get so entirely, it's my satisfaction, it's my joy. To be able to give something to someone that is not a material something, as it was when I was an art consultant and sold them a painting. This is something much broader than this. This encompasses their entire existence. Because like I said, change one thing and everything changes as the ripples go out from what's been changed. That is a great satisfaction to me. It's like the MasterCard ad says, it's priceless. What do I do with that? I just want to keep giving it. So I hope you understand a little bit of why I do what I do, why I do it, and where I come from with it. Thanks for being here. And if I might, I want to tell you that I put out every other month a newsletter with tips from the Feng Shui world that you can use at home. I also am more than ready to debunk the crazy things that happen in the Feng Shui world when, I leave that up to you, but I'll give that to you. It's every other month. I hope you'll subscribe. Just follow the link that I'm going to show you, and you can. You'll also see some videos of clients I've worked with, and they'll give you an idea of what's happened to them. Thanks for stopping by.